We keep things rolling here on the Sports Cubicle. It has been a seismic change in the National Football League, and we brought the whole crew around the water cooler here on the Sports Cubicle to break down some of the biggest news, not just in the last 5 years, not just in the last 10 years, but possibly in the history of both college football and the National Football League. And to help me talk about Nick Saban retiring and Bill Belichick leaving the New England Patriots, it's Paul Chivari, it's Devin Tingle, it's the marvelous one, Dan Marver. I'm Mike Mercado, and where did we begin, right? As a 33-year-old going on 34, my entire sports fandom has seen Bill Belichick dominate the National Football League. My entire life, what from the teenage years on, has Nick Saban willing at LSU and at Alabama. Now we are here where both titans of the sports are going in the fork in the road. Will Nick Saban ever come back? Will he go into television? Where is Bill Belichick going to land? The ticket is been stamped. The minutes are counting down until we find out the next destination for Bill. But until then, I want to talk about it with you guys. How big of a moment this is for sports, not just football, but American sports. Paulie, I'll start with you. You and I have always had fun conversations about the Patriots and the Raiders and just how this has impacted your fandom, how Bill Belichick has left a stamp on your fandom all these years, heck, all of the whole National Football League. Your initial thoughts when you saw Bill Belichick now announcing, having this press conference with Robert Kraft. He has gone from New England, will find a new home next season. Your thoughts on Bill Belichick tenure ending with the New England Patriots?
It's the end of an era, that's for sure. I mean, 24 years as the head coach of one team, 6 championships to go with that. I mean, I'm sure he'll coach again just to chase the Hallis and Shula win totals, but I think, I mean, this might be the end of him. I'm sure a team would take him, but he's over 70 years old. I think he would have to inherit a team that's already ready to go. Marver, are you ready to come in and coach?
I'm ready. How about Rick Pitino? He's over 70 also.
I mean, I don't mean to play an ageist, but I think he's been there for a while. He set up a culture. It'll be neat to see him if he does coach again. But I think as far as NFL history, this is a big chapter that's changing over right now. And along with Pete Carroll, you'd reminded me before we started that Pete Carroll also got ousted, and those are two very important coaches in the NFL, long tenured, and a couple of Super Bowls, a few Super Bowls between the two of them, including one that they played against each other. That was one of the most controversial endings ever. But it's the end of an era. They're two great coaches, and it's time for the next generation to start. But congrats to them on long, illustrious careers.
And I think it's so funny you bring up the Pete Carroll thing, right? Because it's been kind of lost in this entire conversation. That is how big it is that Bill Belichick has left the New England Patriots and Nick Saban is now retired and out of Alabama. And, it's crazy to me, the age thing, right? Because I do think Bill Belichick is going to coach again. But I think it's one of these things where the options would have been even bigger had it been 5 years ago. Maybe around the same time that Brady had left New England, had Bill Belichick left New England, who knows what kind of organizational power he would have, how much goodwill, the difference of senior leader, 65 years old, in the grind of the NFL opposed to going to be 70 plus in today's National Football League when you're going up against guys like Sean McVay. And that's why I want to bring it up to you, Marvelous. Like, you see where New England is now moving forward in their organization. And this press conference that we saw between Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick. And now that Ben Johnson has been brought into the rumors of Washington, maybe Bill Belichick's going to Dallas if Mike McCarthy falls this weekend. Maybe he's going to Los Angeles. Maybe he's going to Vegas. We did see that Jared Mayo is now the new head coach of the New England Patriots. So it won't be Mike Vrabel who will be coaching New England. Marver, we were busting chops about the 70-year-old, but it goes to your point, right? How fast things move in the National Football League, how quick schemes change, how quick the turnaround is, and how much power does an organization want to give to Bill Belichick? What were your initial thoughts when you heard the retirement? And now that a few days have passed by, your thoughts on what he might be doing in the future in the NFL?
Well, if I were Bill Belichick, I don't know if I'd want to coach again. And particularly, in some of these dome stadiums in warm weather climates, he won't be able to wear his hoodie as much. And I think that's a factor. He is 71. He went to college with my friend Jeff, very intelligent guy. I think that he maybe want to be in management at this point. Maybe he doesn't want to walk around in 20-degree temperatures with his hoodie on. I mean, maybe that would be a good thing. Maybe with management, and if he could manage and coach, perhaps, I think that would be a good fit for him. I don't know. I don't see him for some reason at Dallas or Vegas or some of these other places. And I mean, by the way, 70 is the new 50 because Saban's 72. And Carroll's 72 also, by the way. And Rick Pitino's 71. But in any event, it's and I mean, the president of the United States is going to be over 70 unless they both die. I don't know. So that's I mean, it does. I'm thinking of myself. I don't know if I want to walk around the sidelines in the cold at this point in my life, but maybe he does. But so maybe he does want to coach in a warm weather place or be in management. That's what I would do if he went to Wesleyan University in Connecticut. He's a smart guy. What happened is Brady, was it Brady that carried him, or did he carry Brady? That's another argument for all the Super Bowls. But now with the poor record they had, it was inevitable that the end would come, and it's too bad he couldn't have ended it like some people do on an up note. But I don't know if he's going to coach again, honestly.
Marvelous. I'm so glad you brought this up, and this is why your perspective in this conversation is very valued. And we're going to get to Devin in just a second, but let me ask you this: being of the same age group, right? You haven't stopped working, and you kind of found your way to find things that are comfortable for you, that kind of work around your schedule, that still pique your interest. Do you think maybe it might be even the opposite of he doesn't want to do management, but maybe he just wants to do X's and O's, wake up at 5 a.m, be at the facility and coach a bunch of youngsters? Do you think that might be it too, that just somebody his age, his entire life has been working, that he doesn't know the definition of R&R?
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's the right personality to be an analyst on television, but he'd sure be a darn good one, in my opinion.
He's really good.
Even with his press conferences are witty, but they're a little bit gruff. I mean, I don't know if he could modify his personality enough, but he'd be one heck of an analyst. So
he was surprisingly really candid during the NFL 100 stuff. Like, he was really leading the charge on the coaches section of that.
He was great at the press conference that he had with Robert Kraft. Like, I think he does. And it's what we've always talked about here on the Sports Cubicle, right? It's one of the points I've always said. Coaches have always taken the wrong lessons from Bill Belichick. It's never just been, we're on to Miami, we're on to Houston. Next question. The beauty of Bill Belichick was the cerebralness of knowing how to get the best out of his players, knowing how to change schemes, knowing how to deflect. And that wasn't a thing of, I'm hiding my schemes. It was like, no, I'm making myself the story, so you don't have to ask Teddy Bruschi 1,000 questions, or you have to ask Tom Brady 1,000 questions. Like, that was the genius of Bill Belichick. And Devin, you and I, same age group, we've grown up since we were 10, 11, 12, since you were 6, 7, 8. It was New England beating Carolina and Philadelphia and losing to the Giants. And it was just every February we had a feeling we know who was going to be in there. We knew that Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were going to be at the conference finals. Like, it was always a great time to see and live in that moment. And now that Bill Belichick is out of New England, Tom Brady's been gone. How funny would it be if also, by the way, Bill Belichick ended up as the Tampa Bay head coach? How crazy would that be? But that's a conversation for a different day. Devin, where were you in your emotions, your thoughts, your fandom when Bill Belichick announced that he's done with New England?
I mean, I definitely feel like this was a mutual feeling between New England and Bill Belichick. I don't think one side was kind of, in there. I mean, Belichick kind of knew his time was done. And again, I do see he might want to go and be like to another team and try and, give a better send-off season, because again, how many people want to end their careers like Peyton Manning, winning the Super Bowl? You don't want to end your career like Brett Favre, finishing 2-14, getting carried off the field by all the younger players. Difference between coaching and playing, absolutely here. But Marver brought up a very valid point that he might want to get into management. And again, Pete Carroll, he stepped down from the head coach role at Seattle, but there's a lot of talks that he's going to go into management with the Seattle Seahawks. And in all reality, that might be the better way to go here. And let's be real here. What team is not going to want to bring in Bill Belichick in any sort of management position? Coaching, different story here. But if he comes back, he's going to go to a team that's going to win within the next year or two. Again, as Paul said it best, he's getting up there in age. And I know Marver said 70 is the new 50 here, but it does go that thing here. Everyone wants to finish on a big note, and you don't want to wait around. Again, he's in his late 70s. The average life expectancy in America is 74. He's already lived past that. His next day could be tomorrow. So he's not going to want to, trying to think of a word that I can say on the radio. He's not going to want to, dabble and, he's not going to go to the Carolina Panthers, be like, we're going to make Bryce Young great. No, he might go to somewhere like Tampa because Baker Mayfield really has turned that team around, but that was a terrible division out there. I mean, you said it best. If Mike McCarthy goes, the Dallas Cowboys will be calling Bill Belichick and he will take whatever money they throw his way.
Stop trying to kill off Marver, okay? It's not his.
I'm not trying to kill off Marver.
Right? You better stop trying to kill off people in their 70s, Devin.
I'm not trying to kill anyone. I'm just saying.
But speaking of men leaders in their 70s and impact in the sport, here on the Sports Cubicle, we're breaking down Bill Belichick leaving New England, going to find a new home in the National Football League. And that wasn't the only big story we were breaking down here on the Sports Cubicle with Devin Tingle, with Paul Chivari, with the marvelous one, Dan Marver, I'm Mike Mercado. Pete Carroll was somebody who in this circle is the one that's in the middle of these three coaches. He won a national championship in USC, won a Super Bowl in the National Football League. He went from NFL to college back to the NFL and succeeded, opposed to, but nothing against a Nick Saban or somebody like Bill Belichick, who was the successor after what happened in New England. A weird way that all these guys are connected, but he has been kind of lost in all this. So really fast, I just want to give his flowers to them because we have to talk about the biggest, I believe, even bigger than Bill Belichick, is Nick Saban's sudden retirement. But really fast, just some flowers really quickly around the cubicle of Pete Carroll, who his teams with Matt Leinart and with Reggie Bush. I mean, that USC game against Notre Dame and that national championship game against Texas, it's seared into my memory as a young sports fan. And then having that crazy game against Denver, but then giving up the Super Bowl with a pass instead of giving it to Marshall, like so many impacts that he was in. And I'll start with you, Paulie. Pete Carroll gone from the NFL. Your thoughts?
It's going to be hard for me to give him flowers because I think he kind of cut and run from USC, but he became a better coach as he went along and inherited or at least built one of the greatest defenses in NFL history, the Legion of Boom out in Seattle. Good coach. He definitely earned what he did. And it was neat to see him come back after failing in the 90s with the Patriots and the Jets to come back with the Seahawks and become a champion.
Marvelous. Pete Carroll, well, we don't know where he will land. Maybe it will be management. Maybe it will be on the sidelines of a different team. But for now, he is gone from Seattle and a legacy cemented, a national champion and a Super Bowl champion coach. Your thoughts on Pete Carroll gone from Seattle?
Yeah, Pete Carroll, another youthful 72-year-old. I mean, the one thing to keep in mind is that when you're in the management at some point, this is bound to happen. He said after he was let go that it's tough to make a football decisions with non-football people calling the shots in Seattle. That was a quote from him. So, and it's even true in many organizations where non-football people are calling the shots. So that was kind of telling. I think again, he made his mark in both college and the pros, and he failed in both the college and the pros. So he's had an up and down career, like the stock market. So I'll tell you, another legacy coach, like all the ones we're talking about that have been tremendous and have coached a quarter century, maybe more, maybe a half century when we get to Saban. But it's remarkable that when we look at these careers, they're now a lot of people you've never heard of that are now going to be coaches. I mean, giving their first time shot, and so it's a new era. But Pete Carroll, again, I don't know what he'll do. Maybe will be the same questions as Belichick. Would he want to get back into management? Would he want to be a commentator? Does he want to coach again? Those are usually the three avenues they take. I mean, at some point, even Brady's going to be a commentator next year, apparently.
So, Dev, really fast, your thoughts on Pete Carroll, and then I want you to kind of pivot on the other guy, maybe the GOAT, the biggest Southern one of Nick Saban. Your thoughts on Pete Carroll leaving and then being overshadowed by Nick Saban announcing his retirement?
I mean, I'll say Pete Carroll's was probably the most surprising out of all of them. I mean, if I had to really kind of pick one, and I'm kind of like Paul, I never really liked Pete Carroll. We gotta give credit where credit is due. I mean, now that Pete Carroll's gone, I would love to see that man in navy and orange. It would be so great because let's take a look. There's this guy. He played for Seattle. He took him to the Super Bowl twice, a bunch of playoffs, and then they traded him to Denver, and he started sucking ass in every way, shape, and form. And then they took this guy who was a journeyman. He was supposed to be great, and he was terrible. Came to Seattle and took them to the playoffs. I mean, man, can you only imagine what a team like the Chicago Bears could do if they had a head coach who knew how to like develop a bleeping quarterback? Oh, it'd be so amazing. That's probably not going to happen here. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing with Saban I mean, again, sorry, Marver, when you're on the older side of the thing. And again, it's one of those things you kind of never thought. He seemed like a guy who's been there forever, as we've talked about. I didn't really think Saban was ever going to retire. He was going to be that coach that died in the chair, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And again, this is two of the greatest coaches of all time in Belichick and Saban, one retiring and then the other retiring or walking away. We don't know. And again, who knows? Saban might want to jump into the NFL for one big go. He's going to take Brian Zappi to the playoffs. And if you can do that, you're the Jesus Christ second coming here.
A Bailey Zappi drop. Who would have thought we would get that? And I would disagree with our co-host, Paulie. I think the Nick Saban thing was one that came out of nowhere. They were in the playoffs. He's won 9 national championships. The playoffs are extending next year, so you would think that he would want to stay. But here we are, right, in a new day of college football where a bunch of teams, Michigan just finally won a national championship. Who knows the next 12 teams are going to be for the playoffs? But your thoughts, Nick Saban, I mean, the GOAT, he's gone.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that he would leave after this season, but of course, just like Belichick, though, not that Belichick had a choice in the matter versus Saban. I knew that they were going to be the guys that didn't want the farewell tour. They didn't want the circus following them, and especially with college players, that distraction hovering over them. I would have liked to see Saban go out on top, and I really thought, Bama had a chance to finish out that Rose Bowl and change the course of history here. But now we're talking about the national champion Wolverines. Did we need another Saban-led Bama championship? No. But knowing now that this was going to be his final season, I think it would have been neat to see them as a number 4 seed going in and getting the national championship, the actually facing adversity. But a great coach, he figured it out. It's crazy when you think that 10 of the SEC championships in this century are Nick Saban led teams when you lump in his 2 that he had with LSU. So, I mean, that's an impressive resume to just be that consistent in arguably the toughest football conference, pro, college, or amateur. It's, it's a dogfight in the SEC, and Nick Saban's a legend. I mean, the name Bear Bryant, I think, has to go down a peg when you talk about Nick Saban's career and what he's been able to do since then.
And we talk about quarterback whispers and Pete Carroll. Imagine the course of history if Miami Dolphins doctors tell Nick Saban to go with Drew Brees instead of Dante Culpepper. Who knows what would have changed there? Marver, we have about a minute and a half left. Sure. Talk to us about your thoughts of the GOAT, Nick Saban, done at Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's 7 championships. LSU in 2003, Alabama was 09, 11, 12, 15, 17, and 20. He was 17 years at the University of Alabama, and that's impressive. But I don't know if anybody else in this room can say they saw Nick Saban play in college, and I did. He was a safety for Kent State University, and in 1972, they won the championship of the conference. It was their first bowl game and probably last championship since then. And then the next year, they were knocked off the top by another school, that I went to, but whatever, we'll leave that alone. But he had some great years, even working his way up with another MAC team, Toledo, where he started, and eventually he proved. I thought he might actually win this year and go out on top. I thought that, again, 72 years old. I mean, you don't go on forever, except for Marver. But what it is there comes a time where maybe you want to hang out with your grandchildren, or it's a lot that they give up. I mean, the recruiting, I mean, the whole September to January thing, it's a lot. I mean, I don't think I would want to do that. So they've given up a lot, and I think there comes a time where they want to, now they see the end is in their mind, and they want to, do some things, travel more, whatever, hang out with the wife, whatever it may be, and those are all factors. And again, he'd be a great analyst. So, maybe there's going to be a booth full of 70-year-old geniuses, in the NFL and college, even in the studio. He wouldn't have to travel too far. He could go to wherever the studio is in New York or LA or whatever it is and hang out there. But these are guys that somebody's going to want either in television or on another team if they're still willing to do so. But like I say, there comes a time where you want to slow down. I mean, I can tell you that is true because I can feel it myself.
Well, we appreciate that you're always coming around the Sports Cubicle and joining us around the water cooler. And we want to make sure that you guys are following us all over the universe. We're on Twitter at Sports Cubicle TV. Let us know your thoughts that Bill Belichick is gone, Nick Saban is gone, Pete Carroll is gone. It is a brand new day in the National Football League. And we're going to be breaking down if they find new homes, the new faces around the league that are going to be holding and going to be leading these NFL teams into the next season. It's the marvelous one, Dan Marver. He's Devin Tingle. He's Paul Chivari. I'm Mike Mercado. We got more coming up next here on the Sports Cubicle on WCPT 820 AM and now WSBC 1240 AM.